So instead of working on actually making the portfolio, I decided to completely do something random and create this atmosphere like background animation thing. So let's see if I play it here. Basically, like that sort of grid picture that is visible in the main page is now replaced with this insane background thing that instead of using 3JS, which probably would make more sense, I've decided to kind of do this funny thing. And of course, I'm showing all of the, all of the like console logs so that I can sort of see what's going on. But at the end of the day, this is really simple, like, you know, code challenge, interview code challenge, like grid. And all it is, it's like you pass in, you know, how many rows, how many columns. There's a point at each, cell, so to speak. Um, and yeah, it's manipulation of that. And also sort of leveraging React's, performance in regards to that. Because like obviously the more generic code challenge to sort of this like array creation, array traversal, array. Um, I don't remember exactly what the like Code Ninja problem is called, but this would be like interesting way maybe to show like a future employer that you care enough to play around with, um, you know, React or play around with sort of how does these theoretical ideas get applied in real life. And it's just an example, obviously. So in reality, obvious for visualness, I would probably want this to obviously not have text. Let's take out the text for now. But didn't like that. It wants text. Make it optional. Make it dots, because originally that was, the idea is like I want this sort of cool dot background happening, and I think my next step, I don't want it to be just like a straight up, flat grid. I want it to sort of be rotated and sort of doing its own thing. So I just thought I'd start from there, now that's already created. But basically, each point is its own component, which all it does is it paints, a little div. And from there, it's like you can kind of basically leverage Tailwind to do everything for you. I am specifically passing in the style here just because I know Tailwind doesn't like to do like on the fly inline styles it's never seen before because it's trying to optimize. So I think this is sort of the only way I can think of to do this right now. Performance questions. Obviously, I don't think I would like run this as a like constantly moving thing or do too much crazy stuff. I already do feel like there's maybe too many dots. If I refresh again, because essentially what's happening is the initial paint is like a big diagonal, and I'm showing the like console log to sort of like understand that. And actually, we could see in big mode. So yeah, I think the goal is that this quote unquote atmosphere kind of lives by itself, and sort of is doing things. I think one thing I want to do, and like, they always say don't use set timeout in a use effect, and of course I did. And I can't really think of a better way to sort of like sequence everything. I'm sure there's some kind of strategy. Maybe React has some kind of like hook that is essentially like kind of like a timeout hook. I'm not gonna really look too deep into that. Maybe I'll do that offline because that'll be sort of like a Stack Overflow search. But as you can see, essentially this this sort of movie of an atmosphere of a component is kind of doing its own thing. It's just playing a bunch of different settings upon the I'm created this like type called visual mode. So yeah, and you know, it's all configurable. Like you can, as you can see, it changes on the fly, the number of dots, and then all of that movement and tweening, that's all just CSS transition. So I don't even really have to do too much. And kind of the goal is like, I'm not writing necessarily like a JavaScript animation thing here. I'm just kind of showing like, well, if I were to leverage the tools of, you know, CSS, this CSS library that called Tailwind that everyone uses, and then leverage that with just basic React stuff, you know, and how cool or how much visual interest can we create without blowing up the browser, obviously. Some ideas I had definitely were, for example, like add hover effects. So I think in a lot of these videos, I'm sort of, that's kind of, I can't really see it. That's sort of what I've been doing a lot is kind of making things look just like pure CSS. What can we do to kind of wow people? Now I'm just realizing maybe hover's not going to work because I don't actually know. This might be so below. Oh, no. Okay. I did have to give it a Z index. That's interesting because I thought I would have just inherited the Z index. Because obviously there's no background here. This is, all of this is just like essentially transparent. There's no background set on any of these components. So essentially that background should be like the thing. But yeah, you can see, you know, I did this little like, this little grow thing, which, you know, could kind of be interesting. I don't really know if I want to keep it. You know, maybe I'll do radius large, rounded. Maybe we'll make them balls. And obviously at this scale, like we need to, oh, I hate the responsive doesn't really let you do it. You know, little like silly things. Actually, I remember back in the day, there was a website that the thing would like blow up really big. So like maybe I could do that. And now I'm realizing, so I've set transition all to a really slow state to tween the motion, but we could have maybe different things happening within the component. So what that means is, you know, essentially this div represents a cell, right, that's been painted. And then within that cell, you get like a slot to do whatever you want. So let's see if this works. So, whoop. Maybe this has to also be given some relativeness. Cool. And then not really sure. See, like, I'm curious why this needs a Z, because it's already like the canvas below it already has a Z. So I don't really know what's happening here. I think the parent might need a Z. I wonder if it's like, but I don't want them to go, that's the thing, I don't want the dots to go over, and I'm about to break. Oh, okay, so maybe the hover effect might not work unless I kind of figure out some things here. So let me go backwards. So we are in the wrapper component, and atmosphere itself is this thing. So why don't we just give it the lowest Z? Okay. So at least we can do that. And then will it receive our things? Because usually things, oh, I see. So this is on top of that, but there's no background, so it should be able to penetrate down. Let's see. What if this was Z 20? Well, this was Z 30. But then I still want to be able to do that. So maybe, let's see, this should be Z20. So let's reset. Well, I think I would have to consult the Google gods. So it would be, what would it be called? Like, let's see, click through div below Z index. Passing mouse clicks to an overlaying element. I don't think I want to do pointers event none. I see. Okay. So they're saying like pretty much you do have to do like your mouse is hovering over an XY, and that would be the one. So we can't, maybe CSS alone is not going to work here, because otherwise we'd have to give pointer events none, I think, to this top one, and obviously we don't, because that is like something we want. Pointer events none. Let me just test that. Yeah, okay. But obviously we want to be able to click on things, so I'll have to investigate that more and see how we could pass through, because that's going to be, I don't really want to do that here. So let's pretend all of that is there, and we're just really talking about how can we make this background more interesting, and I'll try and figure the rest offline. But big thing I am already seeing right now is like the dot intensity or dot density probably needs to be higher, because my original one was a lot different. Had a lot more dots. And then from there, I kind of want to look at, how do we rotate this stuff? So I know there's probably like some cubic Bezier, some rotation like math, but I'm wondering if we can sort of cheat it a little, just because we already have these positions set. So could we even just like rotate upon the positions versus like actually resetting them. Part of leveraging React 2 here is saying like, well, we've established that these, divs can live somewhere, and now maybe we can just use CSS to essentially like visually trick the person into thinking like things have rotated. Because like, for example, I think, we can shift things in situ, in like where they are, and such. And then, we can apply like animations. So very interesting. So let me think. I kind of think I want to rotate them. So I'm like curious how this would work. Like, how could I rotate? Oh, I could just rotate the whole canvas. 45. Interesting. So like that could even just be the way to sort of trick it, because it's an atmosphere. It's like it's a thing that's sort of living on its own. So it doesn't really have to be real in the sense of like I'm calculating like every single position correctly. How do you do rotate? Is it a pixel count? Is it degrees? I don't think so. I've always been curious. How do I do that? Tailwind. Rotate. Oh, it is degrees. How funky. It's like very old school. So I think I had it, where it's kind of tilted this way. That was kind of like my original idea. So I'm curious what will happen. Yeah, I'd be okay with that. That's kind of interesting. And maybe another way to trick it, because obviously you can see we've just rotated the div, right? So it's not filling the screen because you're seeing the edges of it. Is that you would actually make this whole element much you would reposition it and make it larger, so it would just kind of just span outside of the page. So let me think. 120 vertical height. So this is kind of how I would do it, and then I would have to like move it out of the frame of the browser, which I remember I used to have to do a lot. I don't know why, like what I was trying to do. This is very kind of like comic book, the sort of points, I don't know what they call it, pointillization of the colors. I don't know, crystallize, pointillize, or scintillize. So now you can see it's like it's as if we're kind of like living in this field of things, it's not just like painted back there. And probably we need this to be a lot bigger. Vertical height. Interesting. This is not. I wonder if I have to give it. That's weird. Okay. That's weird that height is making it go larger, but I wonder if I have these like reversed, because it's going down. Yeah, these are like reversed for some reason. 200. Or are they not? I wonder if. No? Wait, okay. I think something's up. Let me take this out again. Yeah, okay. $1,500? Something's not right. Rotate 10 degrees. -10 degrees. Okay. Not sure. It should be working. Oh, I think I know what it is. So I've actually, in my coding, I've set it to respect this window. So so actually the height it's using to indicate to know what's up is actually just the window height. It's fixed to window height because it's being I'm letting it be responsive essentially versus the parent. So okay, that's fine. Well, I don't know if I necessarily want to mess with that, but maybe what I will do is empty. Maybe let's let it live like this, and see how it goes. So like my next step would be, I don't want to give too much vertical to the user, but can we give a little more interest here? So let's create another rotator, ease in out. I think I want it to like just keep going forever. And I want it to be very slow. Yeah, there we go. So, well, this is using an older version, so we don't want it to go that much. Like, oops, 10 pixels even. Oh, this is a wiggle. So let's see. We're already doing rotate 20. I mean, that'd be funny if you like get a potential future employer to just be like, imagine they come to you and they're like, "Oh, I saw your portfolio and I got really sick looking at it," and you're like, "Well, that was the goal." I think that'd be kind of funny, honestly. 30 vertical width. Oh, not that much. Just a little bit. Oh, actually, we'll just let the whole thing. Well, we don't even need this 50, but okay. Rotator, 10 seconds, ease and out. So it'll do its setup and then rotate. Oh Lord, that's very disconcerting, and I kind of love it. All right, we don't need this 50% right now. Oh, wicked. Yeah, this would be very. Oh my gosh. Actually, yeah, can it just like infinitely keep going? I wonder if there's such a thing as an infinite. Oh, I guess to be infinite, you would make it arrive halfway and then go back to that position, but like hopefully forward. That means you can't really translate X, or can you? Well, we'll make it go back. Is infinite the right one? Oh no, the one is not making it infinite. Oops. What? Come on. Animation. Spin linear infinite. Yeah. We're infinite here. Forwards. Use it out. Spin linear infinite. -9. Oh, I messed up this coding. Okay. Oh Lord, it's like going back to 0. I guess you would just set it. Maybe, unfortunately, we couldn't do infinite. So it would just have to be like a really long animation. And, you know, maybe we'll let it go back. Translate X. So yeah, it's very like subtle without being too kind of crazy. Although I want it to start rotated, so and I think originally I wanted white and then not too hot, very subtle. And then even a cool thing is, and to specify like different opacities. So like maybe, I don't know, maybe we use the top. So top would be maybe we do something really silly like let count equals 1. So I think something like this. Wait, how does opacity work? Okay. Wait, does that even make sense? Wait, 0.1 times, like if we were 10. Oh, we would take the count and divide it by, I don't know, 10, probably something like that. For each one, count equals count plus 1. And then opacity is, so if it's like 2 divided by 10 is 5, 4, maybe we do 100. Then we'd have to reset probably, right? I was hoping that it would just kind of like, look at this. Can you imagine someone opening the log and seeing this? I mean, you know, in a way like Canvas and, you know, Three.js, WebGL. I mean, that's what it is, you know. Well, maybe it's not exactly this, but they are painting, you know, they're still tracking sort of like their own kind of nodes inside of Canvas, you know, but obviously DOM elements are like a little bit of a different thing. But I think it's, for me, I think it's interesting to like idea of like what if everything was a DOM element versus leveraging these other tools just as sort of a demonstration project, obviously. Let's see. So I'm trying to figure out why my opacity is so funky. So 100, so what is it? What if I just made it count? It's counting from like 2, 3, 5, 7, 9. Why is it like doubling? 1 point. So I want to do there. Now I'm kind of generating. Okay, that was like what I wanted. It's kind of like generated gradient. Well, you can kind of see it like doing its thing. And it's interesting that it's kind of working concurrently with the Tailwind class, which I find fascinating. They're not like overriding each other. So like this even could like, you know, pulse, and I don't need to recalculate. I don't, like, for example, I want it to have this opacity gradient, but then I also want the opacity to pulse itself, which is kind of crazy. And like if that was like another animation. So I think that's really fascinating that it allows that. Oh, well, silly me, because there's two things happening. The parent div is opacity, and then the object itself inside of it is also has its own opacity. So like that's kind of it. So maybe not as magical, but kind of demonstrating like, you know, this layering effect of how you leverage CSS to do interesting things. That I don't know if this is more performant, but it's like much simpler than me randomly downloading Three.js just to load, you know, a background image. And modern browsers today are a lot more powerful than they were before, and everyone's computers are generally more powerful. So I find that this to be an interesting challenge to see what it looked like. And I am now seeing that this count is being recalculated every time. So maybe I have to probably actually what I have to do is pass in the key as like an index. So let's do this. Index. And then we'll do index times that. So now we're just using the index value as the way we generate this gradient. And then it should be surefire for different mobile devices. And now it's like not as loud, and that's kind of the goal. Oops. 01. 02. 05. Oh wait, now I have to reduce it. And I guess to go the opposite direction, you know, I'd probably have to like times this by 1. Or I don't know. Or I would just like reverse the index number. So like it would be whatever, right? 100 minus index times probably 1. Yeah. I killed a bunch of them. So maybe 200? Yeah, and I'm not really scaling this very much to the actual number of dots because now, you know, the number of dots can change. So really they should be they should be linked to the boundaries I've been setting, which are, what is it called? Window size width count. So this is like programmatically generated field, star field essentially. If you and so yeah, width and height essentially say like how many across, how many below, and then probably that number should be used to attenuate this gradient. But if we just use index, that's fine because that'll just always be attuned to whatever the amount that is there. I don't know if I want it super like, I still want some color. And this makes me want to now add another like animation. So like maybe this is probably would apply it to the dot itself. So like animate pulse. Yeah, I mean that's the base tailwind. So like maybe I'll add my own version. Pulsar. Rotator. And I'm thinking like background color library dot blue. Oops. Oh, interesting. That is funky. Dark blue. That would be very. That's odd because background white, background opacity, relative, hover background dark blue, hover. It shouldn't be. Oh, there we go. I was overriding rotator. So now it's getting some little color shift. Maybe we can add another color shift. Maybe it starts at white, blue, dark, maybe green. And oh, sorry, it's very. Actually, maybe it should start with the midnight blue so it like fades in. And then people are like, what? Maybe it goes a little faster. 25, 50. Oh, it should be 75. I don't want it to be too neon green. I kind of like the idea that it is like kind of, let's reverse it. It's sort of like off. It's like not really synchronized, and it like is essentially in its own sort of pulse. Ooh, and I'm already noticing it's like actually dependent. So it's like kind of, it's the animation is dependent on when the element was loaded or created. So when I just added a few more at the very end, it was like, what? It like reset everything. Because I do this thing where I like add some more dots. Maybe we should just keep it at 10. Well, then you can't really see it initially. So like, let's play around. Cool. Anyway, you get the gist. All right, I'm going to pause it here. All right, I just did a lot, so I should probably cover that. The animation I refined quite a bit. I actually added sort of like a tailwind animation to the keyframes to the actual dots. So now the dots kind of like have this interesting pulsing and, you know, doing some kind of sparkly stuff. They're all kind of delayed on a set, so each one kind of loads in by itself. So it's like, you know, I don't have to really go in and specify, oh, every row and every dot it does this and that. It's just like because it was added on the fly by JavaScript, then the CSS just runs on its own timeline. And in general, the site still remained pretty smooth. So I was like really surprised that, and like not, I mean, I guess I shouldn't be so surprised. Like, you know, modern web browsers have evolved today. But, you know, I always still encounter websites that crash my browser. So I think it's interesting that I've pretty much loaded this thing up with as much, you know, I think there's like probably 1,000 dots on this screen moving along, and, you know, things seem relatively okay. Should probably check the task manager tab. Eric James, 1.6 gigabytes. I mean, sure, not the greatest, but I've also been local deving this for a while, so I think it's okay for like, I just want to impress someone for like 2 seconds and, you know, give them a little flair. I mean, I don't really know how many people are going to be clicking on, you know, half of these things. I don't know. I mean, Task Manager is kind of weird because, like, let's look at the Tailwind. I mean, even just looking at this Tailwind web page is like 100 megabytes. So Chrome is can be tough. Let's go back. And also you can see the blog preview pictures are now sort of these like little, I've decided sort of as an art style, kind of like how I did my personal picture. I offset it. It sort of like comes in and drops into this little slot, but it stays kind of out, you know, the outside the lines. It's kind of 3D-ish, kind of, I don't know, like maybe The Expanse TV show has a lot of sort of offset images with sort of lines that delineate where where the content is. So maybe this idea that the images are always kind of sitting at the top, or sort of peeking out from the top, you know, kind of like this is a filing cabinet, and, you know, this file of this picture is always behind it. And I added a backdrop blur behind each one, so you can get a little taste of, you can sort of see the relationship between the two. Also, there's like a group hover in Tailwind that sort of allows both of these to sort of happen at the same time. So you could see like in BlogRoll, there's like a group tag here. The group tag says that this whole thing can be hovered, and then you add like the group hover down here. And then it just automatically triggers it. So that's kind of like a nice little thing that Tailwind included in its package. And it's really subtle. I was going to say, also, aside from this blog thing, in the background, I added just a very subtle radial gradient that's like kind of moving up and down. But I'm actually thinking it's almost too subtle. And like, you know, maybe I should make it loud. Like here was kind of my original color was sort of this like earth atmosphere kind of thing to go with the space theme. Earth atmosphere is kind of pink. And what it does is it places a circle and then it moves it up and down. Now, and you can like kind of move the gradient around. Obviously, kind of a thing I didn't realize was like, so and I kind of stole the background gradient thing from this this CodePen, which has been around for I feel like forever. So apparently the support for movable gradients is kind of like funky. I don't know. I guess there's this new syntax. This looks like really sketchy. I don't even know if it's in like Mozilla, because I don't think I've seen it in any of these docs. It's called the property. I mean, they don't really talk about it in that page. So, oh gosh, this is like 2024. So like this is so brand new. Like, I mean, yeah, like this is, I actually thought this was already always supported kind of because it just kind of makes sense, right? But I guess it's like super new. But interesting, this post says 2021 but updated 2024. So like, you know, maybe there was a strategy before. But I guess the issue is that the browser doesn't just kind of automatically tween. It actually has to be given CSS variables in order to like change things. And then it just respects the transition tag you give it so that it'll like obviously move it. Otherwise, I don't think if there was transition here, it would just kind of snap into place. I guess I can't really edit this, but yeah, so ideally it would have been nice to kind of move the gradient in my page. Instead I'm not just move the gradient. Well, I am able to move the gradient, but be a little more specific about where it lives on the page versus like basically what this strategy does is it stretches the gradient, like massively stretches it so that it's basically like a CSS sprite image. And so you just trick the person by essentially moving the gradient around. So then it looks like you've changed the color, but really you've just moved this massive gradient. So it looks like you've transitioned between the two. So I guess that's kind of, yeah, what's happening here. And actually right now I'm actually enjoying this kind of purpley pink. But my goal was I would have loved for this purple not to always show up and that maybe it would conditionally come in. So I wanted actually the radial gradient to change. But yeah, when you put like one of these at 0%, the other at 100%, it doesn't like tween it. It just flips. Like there's no automatic smooth shift between the two. So I'll have to think about kind of what I'll do as a strategy. I really do like this pink. It's kind of cool. I'm really into lately, like, messing with colors that are non-traditional, like purple. Um, Although I don't like how the blue is now looking purple as a result of adding this sort of like earth shine pinkness, but um it's really fascinated me to try and use like non-traditional colors. Um, no agenda. No agenda with the colors, just trying to play around with stuff because pretty much every website is just white or black or gray or some hints of blue or random red. I don't know. Not a lot of variation, and so it'd be nice to kind of, go back to something, go to something a little bit kind of like, ooh, kind of throws you in a good way, I hope. Um and yeah, so hope you enjoy the visual onslaught of this portfolio now. And I think in the next videos, we'll work on building out more of these pages and then also finally actually bringing the data for all these. And so I might do those offline and then kind of review how I'm pulling in that data. But the goal is to like make this look a little bit more like at least content wise a little more finished. So yeah, cool. Thanks.